Here we go.
Luke 18:16 says, "For Jesus called them, saying, 'Let the children come to me. Do not hinder them, for to such belongs the kingdom of God.'" At 4 years old, I was hindered. I was hurt. My childish light was permanently dimmed. This experience, coupled with a seemingly unrelated birth in Nigeria, ingrained in me that circumstances are truly everything and that I never want to be complacent in mine again. At a time in my life when all I cared about were princesses with long blonde hair and flowing pink dresses, I remember asking my 15-year-old adopted cousin, who was in from Montana, to come play with me upstairs. Brushing off my offer, he suggested something new: French kissing. My memory of that night remotely ends there, protecting me from reliving a lot of the horrific events that happened to me that night in my basement. Weeks later, my family, we were all out on our back porch eating dinner together, very wholesome, and one of my brothers mentioned kissing, and I perked up and I said, I know all about French kissing, and shocked, my parents sent my brothers inside and anxiously questioned me about my declaration. I told them hesitantly that I wasn't allowed to say anything to anyone, that this was a secret, but obviously they assured me that nothing bad was going to happen if I told them everything. So that night, sitting on my yellow porch swing, I described all of the atrocities in detail that happened to me that night in my basement. Thankfully, at this point, there are only pieces to remember. I am truly a success story. Instead of remembering his face hovering over me in the assault, I remember my child psychologist, Dr. Shapiro, showing me new puzzles in her office. Instead of remembering the nights that I cried myself to sleep, confused as to what was even happening to me, I remember my mom coming and sleeping with me any night that I would ask. Lastly, instead of recalling the horrifying dogs barking next door, I remember the times that my mom would play a CD she made for me that she sung lullabies on. I am lucky. I am one of the few that can forget most days that it even happened. I truly am a success story. I owe part of this success to a 16-year-old Nigerian girl I met when I was just 16 myself. My junior year of high school, my family and I traveled to Abia, Nigeria to help in an orphanage and boarding school for about 5 weeks. While there, I assisted Sarah give birth to her first child, but little did I know she was a rape victim as well. The night that the baby was finally coming, my sister-in-law Haley woke me up, and we were so excited because one of the main reasons we'd gone to Nigeria is so that Haley and I could care for the baby as they sorted out custody. So malaria mosquitoes are notorious for coming out at night, so my mom made us all have 4 layers of clothes on in the 90-degree humidity. So I ran around the corner to the medical building, which was just another brick building with no running water. And the only medical supply they had was olive oil, and I'll let you use your imagination as to where that goes during a birth. And the only person who Sarah knew in that delivery room was her mom. Her mom stayed in the back of the corner for the majority of the experience, except whenever she pulled off her flip-flop and started beating Sarah for crying during labor. The whole thing was traumatizing for me, so I simply cannot grasp how awful it was for Sarah. As she was walking back and forth, just pacing uncomfortably, obviously, we locked eyes for just a split second. But the emotion, the heartbreak, and the fear she conveyed in just that moment will stay with me forever. She was a kid too. She had passions, she had fears, she had joys, but all of that had been taken from her. All too familiar to me, that light was dimmed. I wish I could say that I stayed the entire time in the birth, but in that moment I could not watch someone so similar to me go through the most intense emotional and physical pain of their entire life. I walked in and out of the room, frankly trying not to pass out until the baby came. The defining moment in my life is whenever I realized that circumstances are truly everything. She could have been the one that had the amazing parents, the incredible education, and opportunities to move on from this. But instead, she had a mom who literally abused her during labor, a father who let his friends sexually assault her, and a corrupt government who refuses to intervene. No sexual assault could ever be compared We had extremely different situations, but we were both victims in every sense of the word. My child light was dimmed, and her youth was stolen from her. The head of this orphanage is Dr. Chiakwinye Hendricks. I've always called her Mama Chi, and one night whenever I was rocking the baby, she sat down and explained to me that in that rural region of Nigeria, many 30 to 40-year-old women want to have a kid and a family but don't want to go through the risks of labor, as it's very intense and you can have a lot of health problems. So what they do is they allow their husbands to go impregnate a teenage victim, then they take the baby back as their own and raise it. That is what had happened with Sarah. Her passion and her youth was stolen from her as if it meant absolutely nothing to anyone in her life. We were both victims. However, the one and only thing that dictated how we moved on from these attacks in our lives was our environment, and that's the one and only thing we had no control over. In the little I have lived, I haven't experienced much diversity or adversity. However, the small extent that I have has taught me that I cannot be complacent in my circumstances. Circumstances are truly everything. Proverbs 132 says, "The simple are killed by their turning away, but the complacency of fools destroys them."
You didn't think I was gonna get to you, did you?
No, I hope not. I don't think we're gonna have enough time.
Oh, we got plenty of time.